If every single person had the same characteristics and traits in the company behaviorally, then you wouldn't want all those people working together because you wouldn't have a dynamic company.
Hey guys, welcome to the Wine, Whiskey and Weed Show. I'm here with Josh Rand, and he is the CEO and founder of Force. I think that's what I remember. Force Brands now. Many other things. Josh, I think you will have to give everyone an introduction again. But I'm really excited to talk to you about, leadership. And I think in your title, you also write motivational chief, right? So I really want to know how you motivate your team, how you are scaling growth, and really, how has leadership changed, right? So personally, I have some questions for you as well. So excited to have you, Josh. Thanks again for joining me here.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on the podcast, and I appreciate the invitation. It's been a while since we've had the opportunity to chat, so I'm really looking forward to it as well.
So, Josh, I think let's start with leadership, right? So, define leadership. What does it mean to you, and how do you see leadership?
Leadership to me means one thing, and that means people want to follow you. And leaders can lead many different ways, just like parents can lead many different ways. And I feel that empowering other people to tap into their strengths and their magic so they can contribute at the highest level and feel good about themselves is an incredible quality of a leader. And it's something I work on all the time. As a leader, I have coaches that help craft my leadership style, and I try to do the same for our team. So it's a lot of listening. It's a lot of learning. It's incredible feedback, and finding a way to add value to everyone's day, so they don't just feel like they're working; they feel like they're contributing at the highest level, and they want to continue to do the things for the group they're collectively working with.
I think one of the challenges which many of us face is really stop doing things and focusing on training and sort of meetings, mentoring, going one-on-one or empowering, as you said, right? It's very hard for you to put an effort in an individual where, for example, that it's just a short term. That person's not going to be with you forever and ever, right? So how do you yourself convince that it is what it is? But still, let me just groom this person, develop this person, and give my best, right? And basically, what I'm trying to tell you is there is a fine balance between how much you want to put your time and energy versus you yourself being an executor.
I'm a firm believer in coaching and development, and at our organization, Force Brands, we have a leadership, coaching, and mentorship infrastructure. To support all of our C-suite executives, our VP executives, our directors, our managers, everyone that has a specific team structure that they're responsible for mentoring, coaching, and developing, regardless of the tenure of those employees, because one never knows if someone's going to stay for 6 months or is going to stay for 6 years. You hope longer, but giving them the tools, the empathy, the ability to be vulnerable with their teams, the actual structure to develop, motivate, and coach their teams is vital. And I believe that at the leadership level, providing those tools is hugely valuable because you learn so much about yourself. And as we grow and as we work, we have 70 something people at Force Brands and 15 to 20 at Pinata, and we have these different groups. Everyone requires attention, and what you can get out of sometimes your early stage employees can be even more valuable, as far as intelligence, that you can get out of the senior level employees that have been there for a while. So I feel like you can't take shortcuts in training people, and coaching and developing them, because it requires constant mentorship. So I always feel with your team development, leadership training, you get out of it what you put into it. If there's a lot of people that have, talent, and there's a lot of people that have skills, but making sure those skills are appropriate for your specific organization or your specific mission, and ensuring alignment with other functional thought leaders. So sales is connected to marketing, marketing is connected to finance, finance is connected to operations. All those things require leadership conversations, talks, and very often they're the in-between moments. It's not about what happens on the Zoom. It's after the strategy meeting. And now that we're not all in offices every day, those in-between moments become even more challenging when someone says, I wish I understood what that meant. And it's hard to say, oh, can I get you on a Zoom for 10 minutes to ask about that, especially if you're a more junior level employee. So we find taking time to, we're trying to get much better at this now that the world's getting back together post-pandemic, getting together for leadership retreats, getting together for management meetings, and letting people spend real time to understand what's valuable about the people they work with. Leaders want to understand how other leaders want to be communicated to. Not everyone wants to be communicated to with the same style. That's part of leadership. Understanding the nuances of the humans that you work with. If every single person had the same characteristics and traits in the company behaviorally, then you wouldn't want all those people working together because you wouldn't have a dynamic company. You wouldn't have a diverse company. So we're constantly working on this, and we have talks about this all the time, internally and externally. It's a great question, but I believe that coaching and mentoring and putting that time in to train people is a lot more valuable than getting people in, not training them.
And you've seen the results. I mean, it's practical, right? You've seen it. Like you've seen, that you spending that, let's say 40 hours on 5 people is more ROI positive. You've seen that, I believe, right? That's why you do that.
More ROI positive than not spending the time, giving it 90 days to figure out they're not working out. Then they're giving them another 90 days to put them in our performance plan. Then they don't work out. Then they leave the company. Then it takes another 3 to 6 months to recruit for that same role. And then you're a year out because you didn't put the time in, trying to find a new employee. So I believe it's not just about recruitment. It's about retaining the talent. It's about making sure.
One of the things I find, Josh, a problem is, sometimes you go too early. Like as a leader, you can sense it. Like this is the future leader, right? Even if it's a young person, that person you want to develop. You got that, right? So there, you always are planning successions, always, because that's the vulnerability, right? As a CEO, you just want to make sure. If you have a sales manager, you always are looking for the next sales manager, right? Yeah. So basically, sometimes I've noticed that it's too early, and then they fail, and then they just get disappointed. So when do you approach them for, hey, I believe in you, for example? Is there a time you wait? Like, okay, 6 months, do not let them prove, heads down, and then Josh, the owner, goes there and says, okay, here's what we have in plan for you.
Well, that's a great question as well. I believe that it's about consistent feedback loops. Like the traditionally, 10 years ago, a lot of employees would quarterly, they'd review each other. The company would tell you how you're performing based on expectations. And maybe you'd get feedback from the employee to see how they're feeling and where they want to go. And, what their career goals and aspirations are. And very rarely was there like a 360 feedback loop. Nowadays, in addition to that, performance reviews are table stakes. You got to do that. Some companies say, oh, I don't have time to do that. Everyone's too busy. Well, people want to know how they're performing. It's just like in a marriage or a relationship. How are we doing? How am I doing as a parent? How am I doing as a husband, as a wife, as a spouse, whatever, as a partner? This is the same in business. How are we doing together? How can we further develop to make sure that we're providing you with a roadmap so you're able to achieve what you want? And by the way, it's our responsibility as an organization to let you know what your career path looks like. You should have visibility into what your career path looks like in 6 months, 2 years, 3 years. And here are the different tracks, even if you're a small company, because people want to know where they're headed. And I believe.
So do you believe in organizational chart? You believe in that theory of
I believe in organizational design. Organizational design.
What does that mean?
Whether it's a tree or whether it's a module, and what that means is us as business owners, we have roadmaps, and we have plans and we have projections, and they never ever are 100% accurate. You're never going to put together a business plan or a model projection where everything is accurate to the penny. It's a living, breathing thing. But when humans choose to join an organization, they want to know what their future looks like. Because if not, they
True.
just have a job. I just have a job and I have a
Mm,
job to do, and that's all it is, opposed to a career. So I believe that
mm,
designing the infrastructure and the organization, and we work with so many great CHROs and VPs of recruitment and talent. And sometimes organizations don't have that, but really good operators, they're thinking about how their organization is building for the future, because typically the number one or two line item, on their P&L as far as cost structure, use of proceeds, is people. So if you're going to
mm,
spend all this money on people and not take the time to design it in a way where it's configured so they understand how to interact with each other in order to grow and develop, you're selling yourself short as an organization. So I firmly believe in organizational design, but I don't believe on an org chart that sits in a closet that no one sees. I don't believe
mm,
in a mission statement that sits on a plaque on a wall that no one reads and can recite. Like that
mhm,
makes no sense. But if you use it, and this then
mm,
becomes kind of a reference point as you're looking to scale your business, and you're achieving expectations beyond your wildest dreams or not, you can recalibrate that. And people
mm,
fit in the organization based on their experience, their skills, and where they want to go. So that's a big part of leadership. I mean, there's a lot of great brands out there, great brands, but it doesn't mean they're great companies. The
mm,
ones that go and experience significant scale growth and then achieve a liquidity event, or then they, build a platform and acquire others, it's because they have great teams. And great teams require communication. And great teams require transparent, visible leadership. So the more companies focus on that, the higher the likelihood the goals they set will be achieved, because the people are the ones that achieve those goals.
I'm sure you've gone through the pains of self-learning, right? You had to become a better leader. You
Every day.
yourself every day, right? So when,
Yeah.
especially when you're trying to go through that phase of SOPs, policies, structures, like let's reverse like 2 years before, right? For example, when you were like 30, 40 people, I'm sure you had to put a lot of emphasis on procedures and whatnot, right? So like what kind of self-learning do you do? Because I mean, I'm sure you have some weaknesses, and who did you ask that? Okay, how did you change, like Josh version 2, right? Like you were maybe you didn't have candor, or what were your weaknesses, and how did you learn? Where did you start?
I think that's a great question. Our company 2.0, and I feel like every day is kind of day one, and it's actually we're celebrating our 15th year anniversary this year, which is crazy. Is recognizing what I don't know and being really open about my vulnerabilities. And if as a company, as you grow, if you reach a point, in my opinion, where you can do and manage all the other functions better than anyone else in the business, made the wrong decision. If I can manage sales, and I can manage recruitment, and I can manage marketing, and I can manage human resources, I can manage finance, and I can manage operations better than all my executives, I haven't done a good job of building a team. And so I
Mm,
put myself around other founders and other thought leaders, because I coach other founders and thought leaders on how to scale their business all the time. It's what I love to do. And then we help them recruit for
mm,
specific roles as well. That's really my passion. But sitting down, with a lot of other great founders and thought leaders from other industries, like in my YPO forum in my group, and just talking about areas of vulnerability, blind spots, really helps.
mm,
So I got to a point probably 3 years ago, maybe it's actually closer to 5 years ago. So we need to bring an incredible executive to manage a CHRO, Rachel, who's phenomenal, to manage all of the human resources policies and procedures, that's operationally savvy, that's done this for other organizations, but the specific inflection point that we're at. So I believe when you bring
mm,
in really skilled people, you want to make sure that they've been engaged at the stage of journey that you're looking to embark upon. So if you're a
mm,
$20 million business looking to scale to 50, it's probably good to have someone that's done that in sales or operations. If you're looking to scale from
mm,
50 to 150, those are different skill sets. So finding people that have those skill sets, that love to strategically execute at that level is the magic. Just because someone's resume says that they were a specific company that reached a specific stage doesn't mean they want to be engaged at the level that you are. So I always, every year, revisit the business and I say, where are we in each function? How do we level up our existing team? And where are the gaps? Do we need to bring in other leadership, at the senior level to mid-level to help to make sure that we can achieve what we've set out to achieve? So I would say that for me, it's about hiring great people and talking to other leaders that have done the same thing and realizing no one's perfect. No one's ever done this before. Even if you've built another business before that scaled and exited or that just became highly profitable with huge EBITDA, it doesn't mean you've ever done it in this specific business that you're running at this specific time frame, because this is new. Every day is changing. You got to bring the right people around you, advisors, board members, friends, entrepreneur groups. It's awesome. So we built a whole new division that we're launching called Impactful, which is about which we're going to hear a lot more about in the next 3 to 4 weeks post Labor Day, which is about bringing impactful leadership to organizations, board members, advisors, C-suite executives. Nice. Not just about bringing the person in to run the business, but full integration of their existing leadership teams and beyond. Because this is such an important thing, especially with the talent landscape today, too. I mean, one, it's hard to get great people. Two, it's harder to keep them. How do you keep them? You keep them by putting really smart people around them that have high emotional intelligence, and you bring in great coaching systems if you can justify it, and you make sure you get the best out of the team and they get the best out of each other.
True. How do you listen to your employees, right? Like on the floor, there's sort of you always want to make sure that the pulse is right, the positivity is right, the culture is right. Are there any like tactics, practical stuff? For example, what I usually do is, there's always 2 or 3 characters who are high in energy that are just doing the function of energy for the office, right? Like they are so positive that everyone just loves them, So do you play intentionally any of those things? And then I do 1-to-1, for example. I make sure that every 6 months I'm touching with my 60 people, and somehow I know that, okay, this is, I know that these 2 are the diamonds out of it, for example. But are there 2 or 3 things that you sort of do to just make sure everything is intact?
Yeah, there are always those cultural stewards in the company that just bring the positivity and the energy that can give you a great read of what's happening. And you can tell by their energy level too. And how they do it, like what's going on. And it was really hard during the pandemic because people were stuck inside, mental health and well-being. It was real. People couldn't see their family and friends. That was a really tough thing. But what we found was when people weren't talking and expressing themselves, that was a problem. Is people that are your cultural stewards or, humans that have decided to join your organization that used to be really communicative have stopped communicating, you got a problem on your hands. Because then they've gotten to a point where they don't want to say anything. They don't think their voice is heard, or they don't really care as much. And so I would say that getting a read from those kind of like cultural thought leaders in the organization is one thing. Getting a read from leadership is one thing. But like, I try to do it unprompted. Like I'll follow up with people individually, not when it's scheduled. Just like, how you doing? What's going on? Like, and I ask them, I always want to know, what can we do better? What can we do better? Tell me, like, what are you looking to accomplish? And sometimes the best intel and the best feedback that I get are from the team members that are earlier in their career, because they're so fresh, they're thinking about the ideal work environment and what they want. And they're talking to customers or they're talking to our team and they want to contribute. So I always say to our team, and I hope they understand that as being authentic, is like, if you have a recommendation or you have a suggestion, make it. And we're going to take this suggestion and we'll try to put it to use if it makes sense. But if we can't, we'll let you know why. We'll always close the loop. So I do these open CEO office hours now. We just start doing them again once a month, where anyone can sit in and ask me questions, anything. And
so they come to your room and they can, you mean it's a Zoom call and they can just ask questions?
Zoom, unless it's in person, but lately it's been Zoom. Yeah, because we have people in like 20 something states.
Is that 1-to-1 or a group thing?
It's a group thing. And they can ask me whatever they want. They can grill me.
Don't you think they always are shy in the group sort of environment? The new one, the juniors especially.
Well, what I let them know through that, you'd be surprised. Some are, but not everyone in the company joins. Usually I do this open at 5, 7 people join, right? And just because everyone's really busy. But the intel and the feedback that I get is incredible. It's some of the best. And they'll make suggestions. I'll say,
so what do you call that? Open office?
I just call it open office hours.
And what is the theme of that? Like what are they allowed to ask?
Come ask me anything. Anything.
Okay.
And you won't be evaluated. You won't be evaluated. None of this has anything to do with your performance. This is an opportunity for us to connect human to human, to share your thoughts and ideas, or ask me any questions that you have about the business. And then
what do you ask them? You know,
I ask what we can do better. Okay. How do we improve? But then they ask me the questions. And so it's an opportunity for them to inquire. And I love that because I do enough talking in life. People are sick of hearing me talk. So I like to hear our team talk. And some of the ideas that they come up with, we'll process it. And we'll come back a couple weeks later and say, these 4 ideas were amazing. 2 of these we're going to do. And here's how we're going to do them. The other ones we have to figure out how to evolve that idea because we think it's a good one. But there's a bigger play here. So let us work with you. So then I'll follow up with the individual, creator of that thought and say, can we talk a little bit more about that? Or I'll say, here's why we can't do it. Just so you know, we have a lot of priorities right now, but I really think that's valuable. So the thing is like feedback loop, it's like with a kid, if a kid has a really good idea and they feel like their parents didn't listen to them, they're going to lose confidence. They're not going to come back to you with another idea. They're not going to be open with you. Same thing in a company. If someone has an idea and they don't feel they're listened to, they're not going to come to you with great ideas. And where do the great ideas come from? It's not just the founder or the CEO. It's the people in the organization that are doing all the work every day in different areas. And so I'm a big believer in that. And so it's worked out well. Yeah.
Got it. Let me ask you maybe a personal question on how you develop yourself, right? Usually, I believe that there's always a right hand and a left hand that you really need that support, right? You always have that 2 or 3 inner circle. I'm talking about inner circle, right? So
sure.
How have you designed your inner circle to allow you to keep scaling so that you as a founder can keep on thinking to scale, because that these are some heavy shoulders who are going to do heavy lifting around you, right? So what is the strategy behind who are these people and how, what do you do with them?
It's my direct leadership team. And all of us, it really is. I believe my leadership team becomes the most incredible source of information and energy, different levels of energy. Some are more reserved, some are electric with positivity, some are, backward looking, some are forward looking. And so
I like that.
What we've designed is we have an incredible leadership coach that trains our whole leadership team. And we have multiple coaches in our organization, but we have one leadership coach that coaches our leadership, our core C-suite group. And it's incredible when he sits in our leadership meetings and understands our major priorities and where we're headed and our objectives and KPIs and talks to everyone on a weekly basis. But then he kind of threads the needle. And so whenever we have a real, important conversation that needs to take place, he'll join the call with us and really help express what both sides are looking to accomplish, because he's very clear about our company objective, my personal beliefs on the opportunity or the challenge, this other person's personal belief, and make sure that there's total alignment. So we walk away from that conversation or that strategic meeting that could have been typically really challenging. Everything is said and everything is clearly communicated. If we miss it, he'll make sure to sculpt that so we walk away with the most powerful part of the conversation.
And is that person like a paid consultant, or in your own company you have that person?
Oh no, it's a paid strategist. Yes.
Okay.
We invest significantly in coaching, and but he's like family now. I mean, we just had a huge leadership meeting last week, and he sat in on the whole thing. And there was a couple times where he's like, "Well, I believe what you meant to communicate was this," or I believe what you were hoping to communicate was this. And everyone's like, exactly. And so we have like this kind
Nice.
of like patriarchal, matriarchal, like kind of like layer, above us that holds us all accountable. It's not, oh, my title is CEO and yours is, a VP of finance or yours is CSO. It's like, we are all partners in this. Let's discuss how we can achieve what it is that's important to all of us. And
So let me ask you a follow-up question on that. Let's say you have your 5 amazing leadership, right, with you. You have all department heads out there. And then you as a founder, want to keep growing, right? You're reinvesting. You just want to, because you know that, 5 years compounding is much better than taking the money out right now and so on, right? You keeping on going because you have different ambition than maybe your top manager, right? So there comes the entitlement, for example, that I worked 12 years, it's time for me to enjoy life. For example, your manager says that to you. And for you, it's like time to keep on going still because you want to keep on growing the company. So how do you explain and get out of 5 that maybe 2 are just like done? And like, how do you communicate, but at the same time, they're putting a lot of sweat and equity and blood in building and helping you. What do you do with such cases? You just let them go, or you sort of, put them aside?
Well, that's a really interesting thing. And it's like, I used to think about it as work-life balance. And then I started looking at it as work-life harmony. And now I just look at it as life. You have a life, you have your career, you have your job, you have, your friends, you have your personal interests, you have your family, if you're fortunate to have that. And you've got to really love what you do. And I believe that it's really important to understand if there's a specific area in life where people feel maxed out or taxed out or burnout. Why is that the case? Is it because we make you feel that way? Or is it because you make yourself feel that way? And if it's because we're making you feel that way and you want to be there, what can we do to better communicate? Because I'm not as stressed about this as you are. What is it that's making you feel a high level of anxiety professionally? And if it's something we can solve together, great. If it's not, and it's just that you've reached a point after this period of time where you no longer wake up and you're stimulated in the morning, and you no longer feel fulfilled, and you no longer love what you're doing every day, guess what? You probably shouldn't do it. Now, if I can help you find peace where you really feel like this is the life I want to live because I'm spending 40 hours a week or 60 hours a week or whatever that time frame is doing this, and I really love it, I'm going to get the best work out of you because you're going to love what you're doing and it works for everyone. But if you're showing up every day and you're dragging and you don't really enjoy it, it's not good for you, and it's not good for us as an organization because you're not bringing your A game and you're not being your best. And so there are times in life where I've had really good people that I've worked with, and so many other founders and CEOs and boards I've worked with say like, this was such an incredible person at this stage of the company, but it's just time to let them explore. It's time to let them grow and do something else. And so identifying that, as long as someone had integrity, and as long as they were honest, and as long as they did really good work and put a lot into it while they were here, if it's time for them to leave and they just really feel like they need something else in life, I think it's just fine and acceptable to say, we wish you only the best, In some, we say the door is always open, and some, it might not be the right fit moving on, but that's okay. Because people have the right to find other relationships in life, personally and professionally. So that's how we look at it.
Yeah, it's nice. Let's talk about goal setting, right? Like how let's say you were doing an example, $20 million, and you want to achieve a revenue growth of $5 million in the next following year, right? So I believe you have to first see that you're capable financially, operationally, that your teams are there to take more and so on, right? How do you come up with those targets? Like, okay, I want to grow this much. What is it based on? Like, how do you just design your targets?
Well, I try to remove all limitations. Okay. And I'm a big manifester, and I'm very goal oriented. I'm staring at 4 whiteboards with several goals, family goals, professional financial goals, personal goals, investment goals in front of me right now, which you can't see.
Very nice. I like
And I
those
look at
four.
them. I look at them every day, and I look at them, and I don't just look at it. I close my eyes and I think about how it feels when I achieve that. And really, if I want to grow a business from 35 to 50 or 35 to 70, it's no different. We put invisible limitations in our way because we're trained to believe that it takes 10 years to achieve this level of success, where the reality is it could take 18 months if you did the right thing. There's a lot of ways to get there. So you have to, so first I go ahead and I do kind of vision planning myself on where I believe things are headed and what we're capable of accomplishing based on macro and some micro insights. And then I'll go to the team and I'll say, here's what I believe. I want to figure a way to get there. Let's talk about, I already told you why I want to get here. And this is what we're going to do. Let's figure out how we're going to get there. And I let the team work on the operational forecast budget plan alongside me to figure that out. And we'll come back and we'll say, some of this seems a little out of left field. Let's figure out why. Some of this feels really concrete, and some of this feels like we're not looking at it appropriately. And we'll make an iterative process. But as far as like goal setting is concerned, I've never really set a major goal in life I haven't achieved. Thank goodness, as long as I'm healthy. Now, there have been budgets I've missed. There's been forecasts that I've missed, but I always end up achieving what it is that we set to achieve. And I believe that's because you can't always nail timing. Timing's tough. And, it's different, when you have investors that you have to report to.
No, I get it. It's like you're going to say that we're going to go there. It's going to take us 1 year or 2 years, but we will go there, right? That's what
we're going to get there. We're going to get there. And we're going to have to adjust. And by the way, if we don't get there fast enough, and we, in our SG&A was way too heavy, or cost of sales was way too heavy, we're going to trim it back for a little while to recalibrate till we feel we can get there. But
this main thing is you want to test yourself, your personal capability. Is that how you think? Like, for example, I want to know how much I'm capable of. Like when I retire or when I look back, I at least tested my limits. What's your main reason to keep on going?
No regrets. Challenge myself, stimulate myself. I mean, I believe in building really successful businesses that are able to achieve things that no one ever thought we could, myself included, because I believe in conscious capitalism. And when we achieve all that, we're going to give it all back anyway. We're going to give it all back. The more successful the business is, the more money we'll have to contribute to society and give back to people. And that's my mission as a human, to leave the biggest impact on the planet that I can, and say, like, when I'm done with this whole thing, at the end of the world, at the end of my world, I want to know that I left this place in a much better place than it was when I got here, and have an imprint. Well, I believe I can do that through business. I believe.
Do you get burnt out? Like, let's say you had a very hard, like 12 weeks, and then you're like, does that sort of moments come?
Of course. Yeah, I do. I mean, I think we all do. I've gotten a lot better at it. I'm 45 now. I have two little boys that are 11 and 8, and they fill me up much more. I used to just burn the candle at both ends, and I realized, from like 5 in till 2 in, I realized I couldn't get the best out of myself there. I need more sleep. I need to exercise. I need breath work. I need, to eat really clean. I need to take time with my wife on vacations. Like, I need space. So I believe if I'm feeling really burnt out, I step away. I take space.
Let me go there in your mind. Yeah. Like, it's so funny for me. What happens is, okay, at one side it says you want to grow and you want to do this, and on the other side, you are cutting down your hours, and then you're yourself saying, how the fuck you're going to grow? Like, you're not putting in the work. It's just contradictory to the goal you're setting, and it puts pressure on you, right? Yourself, because on one side, that it's work ethic. That's what it's going to get the job done. Yeah. And how have you navigated this kind of things?
So it's actually, that's a wonderful question. Thank you for asking that and diving a little bit deeper. it's different type of work. Like when you're an entrepreneur, or you're a founder, or you're a CEO, or it could be any position. You could be a VP and just love what you do. It's not like you can turn it off. Like I could go away for a week and not think about my business. When I could not check emails and I'm still thinking about my business because I love my business and I love the people that I work with. So we had our kids went to sleepaway camp in upstate New York this summer, and my wife and I had time to travel, and I can work remotely anywhere. And I made a conscious decision not to have all my recurring meetings set up. My 10 o'clock, my 12 o'clock, my 1 o'clock, all my leaders. I said, you all lead. I'm gonna take some space. Well, the amount of work that I was able to get done because I had time to think about how all the things fit together and how our customers can be better served and catered to, and how our team can get better support was so valuable, because I wasn't at my computer administratively pushing, grinding. I was thinking about strategically how to lift the business. And if you don't take the time to get away, to step away from the noise, it's going to be very hard to ever lift the business and take it to the next level. So I really try to take long weekends. I try to, get away with my family, and my mornings are my time. Like mornings, work
So
out.
walk us over your routine, what time you get up and what's your alone time and whatnot,
I get up around probably 5:30, 6. I never look at electronics for the first 21 minutes of the day. 21 minutes. Never.
21 minutes. Why is that?
21 minutes. Because the brain needs time to acclimate to light. It needs cold water.
But why 21? Why not 30?
It was a really cool TED talk I listened to.
Okay.
There's neuroscience behind it. But not staring at a screen. And then I'll typically write down my goals for the day in a little book, and some things that I appreciate, a little gratitude, but like the things that I want to accomplish that day, like macro things, or just something I'm grateful for. And then usually I'll get a workout in, I'll have a cold brew, and I take my kids to school. I try to take my kids to school 3 days a week, 4 days a week. And I just love that. It fills me up. It's like, if I can't spend time with my kids, what's the point of having them if I'm in town and I'm able to? And then I usually have, I try to have meetings, team meetings from like 9 to 11:30. Then I keep open space from like 11:30 to 1. And then like 1 to 4, I'll take meetings, clients, our internal meetings. And then after 4, I don't have standing meetings, because it gives me the ability in the middle of the day, if I have a thought, to process in between meetings. And I always leave 15 minutes in between each meeting. If I'm jumping from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting, it's really hard for me to recap the last meeting. Like if I get off with you and then I jump on another call, I can't say to myself, shoot, what were the 3 things that were really valuable from the talk that Sid just asked me? Let me write those down. Let me think about that. And then I go to the next meeting. And sometimes it's tough because emergencies happen and things are really important and slack and you get hit. But as far as scheduling, I try to create a little space. And after 4 o'clock Pacific, I don't really schedule meetings. Now I'm going for a walk with a founder today at 4:30 because we're going for a walk, and that's awesome. But I don't have the recurring because I need the space as a thought leader to think. I need to think. I need the space at the beginning of the day to be way ahead of everyone else, to know exactly what we're looking to accomplish today, what to anticipate. And at the end of the day, to frame it, to say, what happened today? How do we better prepare for tomorrow? And then every night, I look at the schedule of the following day and I clean it up, and I know exactly what I'm going into. And I look at the agenda for each meeting. So I'm really prepared and I'm focused on those meetings. So
fantastic.
So that's typically how I structure my day.
What kind of information you do not share with anyone? Just yourself. You just hold it for yourself because it's going to create some negativity or maybe discomfort or insecurities to people.
I would say that sometimes I don't share my personal goals with everyone else. I would say when it comes to business and major strategic decisions that have to be made. I have to be really careful about saying things too early sometimes if they're not fully baked. So sometimes some things you're just not ready to share because you're not exactly sure how you're going to execute, or you haven't formulated the plan. If I haven't formulated a plan, let me know if I'm on this question correctly. I'll walk around a lot, or I'll usually go get a workout in. And by the end of the workout, I figured it out and I've written it down. I always exercise. For me, I worked through everything. I think it was a major roadblock. I was kind of jammed up. I can't figure it out. I go work out for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and I got to figure it out. And so that's what I do. But there are times when I notice with myself and with lots of other founders, so I'm super transparent and communicative about things. Sometimes I share things too early and I got to pull it back. And sometimes your word as a leader, is a founder, as a CEO, whatever your title is, is gospel. And once you say it, you've said it. And it's hard to take it back. And you're like, but actually I didn't really mean it that way. This is what I mean. But people hang on your word. And it's really, and you want to say, I'm just human, just like you. I'm just a person. And I made this statement, but what I meant to say was this. And some say, oh, I totally get it. Some say, well, how could you ever do that? You're the CEO. You should know everything you're going to say. And by the way, no one's perfect. so I've tried to get much better at processing, literally going on long walks. I listen to a lot of motivational talks. I listen to, nice. I listen to a lot of books, and I work out and try to, process this stuff before I all of a sudden just have an urge to say something.
Cool. Let's wrap it up with 5 good principles that you would want to share with people, it's purely your lessons that you think, have worked for you in business. Just life principles as well is fine with me. Just anything that really is a blueprint for you.
Lead with kindness, always follow through on your word. Make sure you always have the right people around you. You become a product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Always have incredible people around you. Find outstanding mentors in life. Don't forget to enjoy the journey while you're working so hard and you're so successful. The whole point of being successful is to be able to spend time with the people you want to spend time with. If you think making another $100 million is going to make you happier and you never see the people you love, once you make it, you're still never going to see them. The whole point is spend time with the people you care most about, whether it's an extra $10 or $100 million. Spend time with them. That will fill you up. It fills me up.
Super. I think one personal question, just as a friend, I would love to ask is your reinvestment philosophy in business to keep on going, right? So, for example, we don't have to talk numbers here, but let's say someone's making $1 million. Do you reinvest half of it back in the business and take half because of the stage of the life you are in and securing your family and investments? Do you have some formulas that, okay, 20% goes back, or, you know what I mean, right? Like, how have you designed your withdrawals versus reinvestment?
Well, it depends if you have, it depends what type of business you have. If you have a venture capital, private equity backed business, that's early stage, you invest all of it back in, if you have a professional services business, that's about EBITDA, then you make sure that you take care of all the people in the business that deserve to be taken care of, and you invest a good portion of it back in, but not irresponsibly. So I would say, it really depends on the life cycle of the business, right? I think that
and the goal as well, right? Like, if you have some crazy goal, like you want to double the company, obviously you got to put it back, right?
Yeah, no, that's 100%. If you want to double the size of the company, and it depends on if your company is valuated on top line or if your company's, valued on EBITDA. So you have to look at, what your objective
But do you like, I mean, at this phase of life, do you make sure that you're harvesting a little bit, because then you want to make sure that you don't fall and you're super stable, you're just going organically as well, because obviously you can invest everything again and again and again and again, and then you realize, oh, one bad year, everything's gone. So it must be a systematic approach to growing as well financially and reinvesting in the company.
Yeah, it's very systematic, and I think it's important if you're a CEO or founder, you have a fiduciary to help you think about these things, right? And you understand how to finance your business. You know, are you going to finance your business with all operating cash flow, or are you going to, you know, have a good banking relationship? You know, where you have a good revolver and you can, you know, double down when necessary and kind of like have a treasure trove of cash when you need to invest in the business, which is a little more challenging this day and age because capital is more expensive. But it really just depends on kind of like what your objective is. If you have a lifestyle business you want to keep forever, if you have a business that you're looking to, you know, increase EBITDA and potentially go through, you know, some type of kind of a growth period to take on additional capital scale. If you're venture backed and it's just like grow at all costs, you know, as long as
sorry, one last question. I got that, Josh. One last question is, you know, how much do you believe in momentum and timing, and to accelerate when you can smell it? This is the time, you know. And you've seen the cycles, right? I'm sure you've seen flat, you've seen down, you've seen, you know, up. Do you really, as a leader, sense that this is the time I'm going to triple down? Have you done those kind of things?
100%. 100%. I mean, I think you have to like it's an instinct. It's a primal instinct. When you've built this thing, this engine, you can see things that other people, you can feel it. You can't even see it, you can feel it. And when you know, and I feel it when no one else feels it. When everything's down, I'm like, oh, it's up. Like what's happening right now in like cannabis? Everyone's like, oh, cannabis is like, it's so challenged right now. No, I'm like, this is where there's opportunity. You know what I mean? So I love that. And it depends. There's different pieces of the business or different industries that maybe we're focusing on. But yeah, man, I think momentum and timing is so important, and you can't manufacture it. It is what it is. You have to know. I've always zigged when everyone else is zagging.
So, I mean, you do believe in serendipity, right? I mean, point is, it is true.
I believe in serendipity, and I believe the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I believe that momentum is a real thing, and you can feel it.
True.
You can't write it, you can't touch it, you can feel it. And you've got to be able to accelerate when you feel it, and you've got to know it's going to slow down eventually and to recalibrate so you can find it again. And so it's really super. Yeah, I mean, I think you do too. It's so impressive to see what you've built and how you've kind of positioned your business and the foundation of it, you know, post-pandemic to be so dynamic. But when everyone was down and out, you're thinking, oh my goodness, look at what I'm able to accomplish. Look what I can start doing with these competitions. Look what I can do virtually. Wait till it all comes back because people want to be together again. And now your business is probably so much more dynamic because of it. Like, you have to love to operate. You have to love the challenge. When everything's just going beautifully well, that's not the point. The point is when you got kicked in the butt a little bit, you have to get your back's against the wall, figure out what you need to do. Those are incredible operators, incredible experiences. And I happen to just feel so fortunate that I'm able to do this, you know, in my life and in my career. And I imagine you are as well with what you've created.
Cool. Thanks, Josh. Any one last slogan or your best quote you would want to share with the audience?
Just make sure you always have a mentor and that you're able to mentor someone else at the same time.